Welcome to the Book of Exodus series on the Town and Field Church podcast. In this 40-day series, one of us at Town and Field will be taking a quick look at one of the chapters of Exodus and sharing some ideas around the text. To learn more about this reading plan and podcast, visit townandfield.ca/reading plans. Now enjoy today's episode.
Hey, it's Ryan. Welcome to Exodus 34 in our Exodus reading plan and podcast. We are in the home stretch. If you've made it this far, congrats. So glad that you're reading along with us. So I mentioned in an earlier podcast, Moses makes a bunch of trips up and down this mountain. It's a little bit hard to follow and count, but this is probably the 8th and final trip that we're reading about in Exodus, in the book of Exodus. In chapter 34, he goes back up and God makes him some new stone tablets. So if you remember at the end of Exodus 31, it actually says that these stone tablets were inscribed by the finger of God. So I picture this like ominous, like giant finger coming from the sky and like writing into stone, which is pretty intense. But Moses came down when they're worshiping the golden calf and he lost his mind and he broke the stone tablets. So here in chapter 34, God's like, okay, you got to chisel out some new ones. I could just picture Moses chiseling these out. The other ones are broken because of the people worshiping the calf, and he's just stupid idol worshipers. Anyways, he makes these new stone tablets, and then God gives them a bunch of instructions around kind of their worshiping practices, their sacrifices, their offerings. And then there's this interesting part at the end where Moses is glowing, glow Moses, or like I like to call him Glowsus. And the people are just like, what's going on? He's radiant with the presence of God. There's a lot that could probably be said about that, but I really actually want to zero in on verses 10 through 14. I'm actually going to read them. Then the Lord said, I am making a covenant with you. Before all your people, I will do wonders never before done in any nation in all the world. The people you live among will see how awesome is the work that I, the Lord, will do for you. Obey what I command you today. I will drive out before you the Amorites, Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land where you are going, or they will be a snare among you. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and cut down their Asherah poles. Do not worship any other god, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. I think this is a really great passage to zero in on, because one of the challenges that many people often feel when reading the Old Testament is there's a lot of violence and gore, and why are God's people at war with others? And I think we can focus on the specific act, but we need to come back to what the heart of the gospel is. The heart of the gospel is this calling that God gives to people to be in personal relationship with him, and exclusively. This language around being a jealous God, sometimes people are like, well, what does that mean God's jealous? It doesn't sound very God-like. It's not jealous as in the sense of like, oh man, I don't have a PlayStation 5, but that person does. I'm so jealous. It says God is like giving his entire self to us, and he requires that we give our entire selves back. If not, then the deal's off the table. He's an exclusive God. He says we are either 100% in relationship together or 0%, hot or cold. And the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says the narrow road or the broad road, one of the two. You can't choose both at the same time. And that's why these instructions are so specific. And we're going to see this happen throughout the rest of the narrative of the Old Testament. Is God saying, as long as you keep the other people around with their false gods and their false cultural norms that are dragging you away from this exclusive relationship with me, you're going to get distracted. You're going to disobey. You're going to turn away from me, and you're going to go their way. They will be a snare to you. So break down their altars. Smash their sacred stones. Don't have anything to do with their false practices that will take you away from who God is. This is an important message for today. This hasn't changed. How this plays out in the Old Testament to now changes, but this hasn't changed. God isn't now looking to just kind of be, part of our spiritual diet or part of our lives, or, something that we engage with on Sundays. God is making the invitation very clear. He says, wholly and completely offer yourselves to me. He completely offered himself to us in so many ways, but particularly through his death on the cross. He gave everything. And so he says, your life that I've given you, give it back. 100%. I'm a jealous God. I'm exclusive. I'm not looking to share you. I don't want you to be taken away by the things of this world. I want you to focus on me and on my righteousness. And through that, people are going to see the incredible wonders that I do. They're going to see how awesome I am. So don't make a treaty with the world. How often do we make a treaty with the world? Kind of give up some elements of our faith, or kind of compromise this or that in order to be a little bit more like the world. We want to keep up, or we want to do these things. And God says, there's nothing in it for you. It's a snare. So don't make that treaty. I've talked about this a little bit in the podcast before, but really think about this. This jealous God who's calling you 100% to be exclusively in a relationship with him. This isn't an open relationship. We're not seeing other people. This is just us and God. What are the snares in your life? What are the treaties you've made with the world? What are the things that are distracting you from being completely 100% exclusively sold out and invested in this relationship with God?